Park. I'm here with Lindsay Amundsen, who's a fire effects monitor on the Bidwell Park burn.
Hello.
That's a big column of smoke. What's happening over there?
They just lit off a nice chunk and got a great column, great lift. Pretty dark, but it's not settling in the valley or anything. That's awesome.
So this is what we call smoke management, right? Like you can control how your smoke affects the people around you, and part of that is picking conditions like we picked today, where you've got really good instability in the atmosphere that allows the air to lift up and out, but also how you light it. Picking a time when it's really dry, the grass burns with less smoke. They just kind of punched up a little column, and that column, the uplift, then where you light a big little chunk of fuel, that helps suck the smoke up and out. So you want to generate lift. Oftentimes you want to light in a way that generates enough intensity to pump the heat up, pump the smoke up to a elevation where the winds will peel it out of here. So what happened here is we spent the last couple hours blacklining what you can see out here along the trail that runs from Easter Cross to Horseshoe Lake. Blacklining just meaning that we just kind of dragged fire along the trail and had folks kind of there with water to make sure it didn't jump the trail, and let the fire back out to the road here, assisted it a bit with UTV with someone lighting from it, and now they can kind of light what we'd call either head fire or flanking strips from the park road itself. So that's what's happening. You see a big cloud of smoke, and then the smoke will be gone. Anyway, we're about 2/3 of the way done with 150 acres of burning here. Blah blah blah, blah blah blah. I got some other live streams we did earlier, and sorry they kept cutting out.
Engine 35, firing one. Go to 35.
Yeah, south on water.
Where we are headed your way now.
Okay. Familiar with the access gate onto Brown's property, that gravel road that's north of the fence line we're going to be burning?
Yeah, I believe so.
I'd like you to make sure we got a key to access that. We're going to put you on the north end of that fence line. It'll make sense. That gate's a little bit further towards Wildwood Park, and then you'll just run the gravel road until you see where we're going to come out on this middle trail with firing operations.
Yeah, so the next thing that's going to happen here is we're kind of on the trail from Northern Parking Lot to Easter Cross. The next thing that's going to happen is
Beaver holding. Firing two.
they're going to fire here over to the fence line trail and out to Wildwood Road down by the kind of dog walkers parking lot. We hear people say, hey, you can't burn under power lines, or doesn't that arc the lines out?
Additionally, 35.
One of the problems with burning under power lines is that if the fuels are moist or you generate a lot of heat, the moisture can actually cause arcing. So if you have a cloud of wet smoke, they can arc down through that and put out the grid, which is hugely expensive. But we're able to burn here under the lines just because we're burning grass. It's light fuel. Our flame lengths are usually 4 to 6 feet. When we light under the lines, we light it in a way that doesn't generate a whole lot of intensity. I mean, there's grass fires that burn under power lines all the time and no one even knows about it. So can't let power lines keep you from putting fire on the ground. You got any burning plans? Is this the end of your spring burn season, or you think you're going to get anything done this summer?
I don't foresee us burning a whole bunch more this year, but if the unit's right and we get called, we'll go.
You hear about the burning that's happening up in Klamath?
I did. Andrea and Jose said that they were probably going to go up there.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Have you burned up in Klamath before?
No.
I would burn there. I would burn anywhere. I want to try the Nebraska stuff sometime.
Yeah. Yeah, Lindsay's talking about there's a couple prescribed fire training exchanges out in Nebraska. One's the Loop River Treks, it's put on by Pheasants Forever. Another one's the Niobrara Treks, that's put on by the Nature Conservancy. Nature Conservancy has the Niobrara River Preserve, which it's a huge chunk of wildland. Got buffalo on it, and they've been burning there for a long time for resource management, to manage their grasses. A lot of what we burn in Nebraska for Pheasants Forever is to kill invasive juniper. There's an eastern red cedar that's a juniper, and it was introduced as a like a windbreak tree, and it's just taking over the grasslands. So we try to kill it with fire. So looking across now, sorry for the shaky video, but they're firing the road, and at the same time they're firing the edge, the black edge here, just to kind of add some heat. And you can hear it kind of crackling along. Like I said, we're trying to kind of balance we're trying to my buddy just texted me there's a fire near Bidwell Park. Yeah, there is. We saw it. We're trying to balance, getting just the perfect kind of amount of heat on the ground versus getting it done before afternoon. So far it looks like Star Thistle's getting plenty of heat, kind of with all the different ways that we're putting heat on the ground here. One of Lindsay's jobs here is she's the fire effects monitor.
Training.
You're doing it. So she's a trainee. I'm her trainer, and the way that wildfire works is there's what's called position task books. So wildfire is kind of an experience-based process, and you got to document your experience if you want to kind of get training assignments, or if you want to move up in fire world. And so she's working as a FEMO, fire effects monitor. And one of the things that we're doing here is that we want to understand how these units are lit, because we want to understand what does it take to successfully burn star thistle. And if you don't know how it was lit, it's really hard to say anything about the outcome, right? Because we've lit this area out here in lots of different ways today. We've lit backing fire, we've lit head fire, we've lit flanking fire, we've lit places where head fire ran into backing fire. And so if you just came out here and did some plots and said, oh, clearly fire doesn't work for reducing star thistle, it might not in that like 10 square feet where the fire backed through when there was no wind, or you might say, oh, they burned it too hot and now there's just ash. It's like, well, yeah, that might be true if you just stand in the 10 square feet where you had the heaviest fuel and 2 head fire strips came together. So if we can document and understand how it was lit, then we can kind of start to correlate the outcome and say, like, hey, look, the places where we ran head fire, we killed all the star thistle, and in the places where it backed, it didn't get hot enough and half of them survived. So she's mapping out how the day goes with lighting, the timing. We take photos, and then we can look at those and see where the fire was at a specific time. She's also taking weather every half hour, so we can look at the overall project and say, like, hey, it looks like we got the best results between noon and 1 p.m. And then we can look at the weather and see, like, okay, so that means that next year we want to burn on a day that's 80 degrees with 20% RH relative humidity and X wind speed. So her job is basically to be a fire scientist. I mean, I think the main reason that most of us want to do FEMO is because it's fun. We get to freelance. We get to kind of
Yeah.
park on a hill and take notes and
Don't eat smoke.
yeah, be our own agent. So FEMO for life, people.
FEMO for life.
What are you seeing? What are you writing down right now?
I was just documenting when they stopped, or when they're finished firing in Unit 1, and they're moving over to Unit 3, and so I'll document when they started firing Unit 3.
Right. And what's kind of what are you seeing with like the weather trend over the last, like this morning?
It's actually been holding way better than I would have predicted. We started this morning first weather was at 8:30, and it was 76 degrees, and it's 87 now. I was expecting a little bit more of a bump, but our relative humidity started at 27 and it's at 22. I was expecting it to drop out a lot faster than that.
And what's our prescription? Like, what are the parameters we can burn within?
Our max temperature, our desired temperature is 70, but our max is 90. RH, the max RH or the lowest RH we'd want to burn is 15. Desired 25, so we're pretty close to what we want it to be.
So we're kind of right in that pocket of
We're really
what we
close
want.
to that range, yeah.
Yeah, so just going back to the folks that are on Facebook that are telling us that we're crazy to be burning today because there's a wildfire and that it's going to be a windstorm and we're going to burn down the whole park. I think it's good for folks to know that like this is a really deliberative process. It's based on a lot of science, a lot of modeling, a lot of observation. And our job out here, Lindsay's job as a fire effects monitor, is to make sure that we're staying within those parameters. She's taking the weather, and if we suddenly the winds are higher than our prescription, or it's too hot or it's too dry, then she informs the burn boss and we shut the burn down. Doesn't mean we're done for the day. It just means that we might, take a couple hours to take a break, drink water, eat food, sharpen tools, put out what we've already lit, or maybe and then come back. Sometimes we'll come back and burn at night. It does take a lot of money and time and energy to rally all these resources. We've got probably over 50 people out here, and so there's definitely this pressure to keep the show rolling. No one wants to shut it down, but the burn plan is a legal document, and the burn boss is legally obligated to follow the written plan, which has been reviewed by an agency and signed off. And so if you're the burn boss, you can decide on the spot that you want to amend your burn plan. Maybe your prescription was bottomed out at 15%. Maybe it's 10% humidity, and based on the winds and what you've already gotten done, maybe you can proceed safely. If that's the case, you can initial a change to your burn plan, but you're on the hook for that. But there's leeway within that process for evaluation and revision. There's some new things that are happening with burning, where there's some new legal protections that are afforded to burn bosses, because I'm a state qualified burn boss. There's a whole bunch of us that have kind of recently gotten that qualification through an experience-based program called CARX. And one of the obstacles that's been identified to people wanting to be a burn boss is that if you are a burn boss, a private burn boss, and you start a fire and they have to order air tankers and crews and engines, and suddenly it's $1 million a day problem, most of us don't want to take on that liability. And so a huge thing that happened recently was passage of a Senate bill, an adoption of Senate Bill 332 in California, which states that if you have a burn plan that has been adopted, reviewed by an agency and adopted, and you are operating within that plan and you have an escape, unless you're grossly negligent, they can't come after you for those damages or for the suppression costs. You can still be civilly liable, and if you burn someone's house down, they can still sue you and get your house, but you're not going to have $1 million air tanker bill unless you're grossly negligent. There's another bill that got passed that created a prescribed fire claims fund that provides it's a $20 million insurance pool, and so if I write a burn plan, I can submit it and get up to $2 million of coverage. So in California, that's just a couple of houses, but it's way better than what we had before, because it's been really hard for burn bosses to get liability insurance coverage. Anyway, there's a lot of different really kind of boring particular issues like that that people have put energy into, identifying obstacles to us getting more fire on the ground and whittling away at those barriers. And one of the results is that we're getting stuff done here. We have folks out here been trained through the Cal Fire Workforce Development Program, or through classes that are sponsored by agency grant dollars, that are now a burning workforce. Anyone who's out here today who's watching how this goes is learning how to safely put fire on the ground. And so it's happening. It's starting to kind of, we're building some momentum here.
Correction, firing 2, command.
Check out that tuft there, Lindsay, of like,
Yeah, I want to make sure that these boats that are caged
looks, oh,
full of water on them when the fires pass it through. I don't want them to pass it up until the fires pass through all these cages.
Holding, copy. Copy.
sorry, it's a bird, I think. Looked like a tuft of
Auburn
ash.
1, holding 2 on CPR 23. Amtech holding 2.
Spot fire.
Shut up.
A slop over. They caught it real quick. So they just had a little slop over there. It's the same place that happened a couple years ago.
Firing 2, holding 2.
That's why we got people out here with
Okay, go ahead.
with water.
I'm going to book up 32 for the street protection. I copy. Amtech firing 2.
So they're done firing the road over there now.
The sustained wind is picking
Holding 2, teacher group. Can you go ahead? Yeah, I'm going to seal 2 folks off and put them into Unit 3 under Bill Jackson, if you're okay with
So
that.
these folks gonna put up a nice amount of smoke.
We'll be wrapped up in 5 minutes.
You can see that we're
Copy.
in the shade now, right? And so that affects the flammability. It might be hard to imagine, but when you got full sun on grass versus shade on grass, it affects the flammability. And so it is possible when conditions are more marginal to shade out your fire and actually make it where it's just the conditions are too cool and shady to actually burn. Not a problem today, but it's one of those things that the firing folks that you have to take into consideration when you design the prescribed fire and the firing plan is that, you know, if it is marginal conditions, you might decide to light in a place on the upwind end where the smoke will be carried away from the sun, just because it really does, just a little bit of shade really makes a difference of whether or not things carry. Lindsay's got a kestrel here. I'm standing in the way, blocking it. There's a FEMO trick here. Test flagging on her tool so she can see which way the wind's blowing. Because with grass burning, it really is about the subtle changes in wind. Someone's asking what's going on here. This is a prescribed fire in Bidwell Park, Chico, California. Being done by the city of Chico with partners including Big Chico Creek Ecological Reserves, Terra Fuego, Terra Creek Resources, Firestorm, PG&E, MTech. City of Chico's providing the burn boss. And here comes an air tanker. Not for us, but might freak some people out. Yeah, everything's under control. We're about 2/3 of the way done burning 150 acres. This is a burn that's happened 3 now of the 4 of the last years. Objectives are to burn star thistle and also to reduce fuels right up against the edge of Chico. So cooperative burning in fire season, right? We can look across the valley here and we can see smoke from the site's fire. We got some other wildfires going. We're not into peak wildfire season yet, but CAL FIRE stopped burning now because of their resources are tied up on actual wildfires. City of Chico decided to go ahead with this burn because we've got perfect conditions today. City of Chico's building their familiarity with prescribed fire, and their comfort level is going up. And you know, 3 or 4 years ago, they probably would not have decided to burn once the state burn suspension went into effect in a local unit. But they've got the resources here to do it safely. And one of the reasons they've got those extra resources is because of big investments from CAL FIRE and other agencies in workforce development, prescribed fire training, paying. So Chico State's got a grant that with the ecological reserves, where any place that has had CEQA environmental review done that's burning, they can utilize staff and fire engines from CSU Chico ecological reserves. Now that we've established kind of a perimeter here of unburned area, you can see from the Horseshoe Lake, or from the Easter Cross parking lot here, going over under the power lines over to the fence line trail. The crews have established a nice, like, 100-foot buffer of black, and so now they can light larger swaths interior and get more intense flames without really being worried about that fire crossing over the line. Anyway, I gotta call it. I'm gonna turn it over to my trainee here, Lindsay. Yeah. Thanks for being out here, Linz.
Absolutely.
I gotta go home.
Oh, you're leaving?
I'm on vacation as of noon.
Oh, gotcha. I'll take over. It'll be fine.
Anytime I see that you're on a fire, I know things are gonna be all right.
Well, I don't know. That's generous. It takes a huge team.
Yeah. But last time I was burned, I think with you, you were the engine boss.
Yeah.
So, and there's only a couple of you at BSER that are kind of qualified to run the engine, right?
We're trying to get people trained up, so we've been working really hard on that throughout the winter. So I'd say you could throw the key at just about anybody that works there, and they could figure it out.
All right. Well, sign me up.
Yeah. You want to be a land steward?
I am a land steward.
Perfect.
All right. Thanks.
Yep.
See you, everyone. Yay, live stream.